My name is Paul Chenard. I'm a Senior Transportation Planner here at the Old Colony Planning Council. And thank you for wanting to know more about the Main Street Brockton corridor study and the recommended improvements. The project manager is Ray Guarino, who's our Principal Transportation Planner at the Old Colony Planning Council. He too is on our panelists, and he's the one that managed the project from beginning to completion and did the majority, if not all, the work in regards to this study. So I'll be taking you through the recommendations, and if we need to get into more detailed technical understanding, we will refer back to Ray and his analysis and stuff like that. So, all right. So first, I would like to hand it over to the Executive Director, Mary Waldron, and she'll welcome everyone aboard.
Thanks,
Mary?
Paul. Thank you, Paul and Ray, for your work on this, along with the rest of the transportation team. I do have the distinct honor to introduce the mayor, but before we do, just a little bit of the format, because I think there's already some great questions within the chat, is that there will be time for some questions and opportunities to speak at the end of this program. We wanted to first give an overview, so that's first and foremost. Secondly, we do have officials from Mass DOT. Ben and Barbara are both on, and we appreciate not only your support, but through you, the federal funding that comes for a project like this and others within our region. So we appreciate all of the resources that it takes, including our legislators and of course the mayor and the city council. So I have the distinct pleasure of introducing Mayor Sullivan. Mr. Sullivan, Mayor Sullivan, you've begun this 9 months ago, and it must feel about 9 years. But it is we really appreciate you have continued to, on top of dealing with the pandemic and a whole host of other issues, public safety issues within the community, you've continued to keep moving things forward and not only working with us as Old Colony Planning Council, but also the Mass Hire and the Chamber, and being a resource. So there is a wonderful bio. You were born and raised here. You went to school at Brockton High School. You've been, since 2006, you've been a city councilor. You've been the president of the council for so many years. And now as mayor, we really appreciate your time today and also your leadership as we move forward on that. So that's your quick little bio, and I didn't do it justice, but thank you again for all of your support.
Well, Mary, I just want to thank you for your leadership at OCPC, and I want to thank everybody that works at OCPC. We've had a wonderful collaboration. Anytime that my office or myself needs anything, OCPC jumps on it, very responsive, and it's a collaborative effort. So I'm just really so excited about tonight's webinar, because we're going to be able to talk about long-term, short-term improvements. We're going to talk about where we believe the city of Brockton and the Main Street should be able to go in the next decade or so. So the planning and the due diligence that we're doing now is going to really truly pay dividends. And we know from a financial standpoint and from a physical and emotional standpoint, COVID has just created havoc here in the city of Brockton. 283 loss of lives as I talked to you this evening. But I also know that business development knows that Brockton is a wonderful opportunity. And when we try to dot the I's and cross the T's to attract businesses and maintain businesses and bring new growth to help our tax base here, one of the really partners in this endeavor is OCPC, and that's just a fact and it's a reality. And I'm so thankful that you're located right across the street from City Hall. So tonight is going to be really a meeting of the minds. There's been a lot of effort by everybody at OCPC. I remember Ray and Jimmy Pereira speaking at the library so many months ago. It seems like years ago, Mary, you're right. But again, at the end of the day, if we can really get this heading in the right direction, as the old adage, the train going down the track, this is going to really speak volumes for continued investment in the city of Brockton, where people are going to want to live here, work here, raise their families here. So I'm just so excited to be part of this tonight. I want to thank you again, Mary, for your leadership. I say this with all love and admiration. Mary is the Energizer Bunny. She's everywhere. She's just nonstop, and that shows every single day at OCPC. So everybody needs to be safe, right? COVID is still here. but tonight is a night of listening, learning, criticizing. Everything's on the table so that we can get this right, because we're not going to have another bite at the apple. So I'm excited to be here, and thank you for having me here tonight, Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For everybody's purposes, before I hand this to Paul, it is being recorded. It is on Facebook Live. This will be uploaded to YouTube, and we will be sharing that link with our local cable company, but as well as to the city's website. Mr. Mayor, thank you for your welcome. Paul Chenard, would you like to take over from here?
I would. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Mayor. It's a great honor to be presenting in front of everyone and presenting a recommendation to improve Main Street in such a beautiful city as Brockton. I always tell people all the time, you know, Brockton's a gorgeous city. You just got to come and check it out. And Main Street is its main thoroughfare, and it's going to be a beautiful thoroughfare too. So that said, I'd like to bring you up to date on what we're going to be talking about in today's presentation. So we're going to be discussing the origins of the study, the current conditions that can be found the length of Main Street, the project timeline, so where has it been, where are we at now, and then look at past and current initiatives that have involved Main Street in one form or another. Then we'll move on to recommendations, and we'll discuss those put forth by my colleague Ray Guarino to help improve Main Street. And then we'll get into the question and answer session and then next steps after this. So thank you for all coming, and let's let this journey begin. Oops, sorry. So the genesis of the study was first initiated by the city of Brockton. They wanted to study Main Street and see how it can be improved for all modes of travel with an eye towards greater safety. With that said, they brought it to the Old Colony Planning Council, and then we got it on the Uniform Planning Work Program, or the UPWP in planner speak at OCPC. And what that is it's a work plan that we submit to the federal government that outlines what the Old Colony MPO, or the Old Colony Metropolitan Planning Organization, will be working upon for that given physical year. And one of those studies was the Brockton Main Street Corridor study. So to give you a little geographical scope of Main Street is 5.2 miles long. It seems, because of the vastness of the city, it seems a lot longer when you think about it. But like when you see it's only 5.2 miles, you're like, huh, it's not as long as I thought. It's actually a federally classified road, so it's got recognition as a minor arterial and principal arterial, which makes it eligible for federal funding. So those monies coming from the federal government can be used to improve this the roadway. Most of the roadway is under this jurisdiction of the city, with the most southern port south of Sergeant Way being state roadway. And as we all know, most of Main Street is a two-way street until we get to Kmart Plaza, and then it becomes the four-way, or the four-lane street, I'm sorry, just before the West Bridgewater line. So there's quite a lot of things that happen on Main Street. One of those is schools. There's a lot of schools that are on the corridor, and there's also a lot of schools that are adjacent. So those schools that are on the corridor would be the Angelo Elementary School and New Heights Charter School on the south side. And those adjacent to the corridor would be like the Arnone School, which is right there on Belmont, and the Raymond School, which is not too far away. And while those schools are not necessarily on the corridor, they do affect the corridor, and they also are affected by Main Street. So when we're all, shuttling the kids to school or picking them up, that has direct effect on Main Street, and Main Street has direct effect on people getting to the school, whether they be walking, biking, or using public transportation along with driving there. So one of the great benefits of living in Brockton is that there's an extensive bus system in the city borders provided by the Brockton Area Transit System. And while not all bus routes operate on Main Street, due to the, or from what I understand, the myth is that the goats laid out the city streets because they were their goat walking paths. Most streets have to cross Main Street in order to go east-west. And so because of the city planning character of those goats who laid out the streets in Brockton, to get from east to west, you got to travel either across Main Street or go up and down Main Street to transverse the city and a good chunk of the way. And there are three main routes that really transverse a good portion of Main Street. Those would be the Route 1 Montello, Route 2 Campello Main Street, and the Route 12, which travels into Boston to the Ashmont Metro Station. So here's a timeline of the genesis of the study and where we are today. It actually started last year, back in October, where the study was initiated, and we started looking at existing conditions and doing a lot of the data collection for it. Then we had stakeholder meetings at the beginning of the year in January, a public workshop in February where people came to the public library and we discussed the corridor and what its needs were and how it should be improved. Then Ray Garino went and took all that information and developed potential improvements back in the summer. And then now he's putting together a draft and final report, which will be disseminated this month to stakeholders for public review and comment. And then after all that feedback is received, that'll be folded into the document and published as a final document. So here are some past initiatives that have taken place either involving Main Street or adjacent to Main Street. A number of different initiatives have taken place over the course of the years, usually with an eye towards increasing safety, because Brockton's Main Street is such a heavily used corridor. There's always a lot going on. And unfortunately, a lot of that sometimes not very safe operation of vehicles or other modes of transportation, which results in crashes and stuff like that. And with that said, there have been reviews of the roadway to see how it could be improved for safety. One of such initiatives was a road safety audit. What a road safety audit is a on-site review of the corridor. So people actually go out and look at intersections or look at pieces of the corridor and see how it can be improved with an eye towards safety. So looking at real-time operations, looking at the existing conditions and other traffic enforcement and traffic guiding mechanisms that are there that would affect safety. Also, there's been Safe Routes to School partnerships formed. For example, Angelo School, which is on Main Street, is one of those schools. What Safe Routes to School is, it's a program that is championed by the state that looks to make walking and biking to schools or in using public transportation a more viable option. So to get kids out there being more healthy, to also alleviate traffic congestion and just make the experience of walking and biking or taking transit to school just that much more enjoyable. We've also had some more direct walking and biking initiatives in downtowns. For example, we had Walk Boston and Mass Bike actually come down and do a biking and walking audit. So actually us walking around, looking at downtown Main Street through the lens of either as a cyclist or as a pedestrian, seeing how it could be improved for the safety and just the overall enjoyment of those who may want to bike and walk along the corridor. OCPC also a few years back drafted a bicycle master plan for the region. When you look at that master plan, all roads lead back to Brockton because Brockton is the natural center of our region, and it is the only city in Plymouth County, which most of the region is in. And so everything kind of comes back down to Brockton. And then we've also looked and partnered and worked with others, some non-safe routes to school, schools along the corridor adjacent to it to see how their experience of walking and biking can be improved. So just to give you an idea of the study scope, so what we've been looking at holistically in regards to the corridor is one, we reviewed average daily traffic along the, at key locations along the corridor. We looked at speeds along the corridor, also took an inventory of the built environment. So seeing what type of roadway conditions are currently, traffic control devices, signage. We conducted turning movement counts, so looking at the intersections and seeing how many cars pass through them or turn left and right through these intersections. Also reviewed MassDOT's top 200 crash locations list, which some of the intersections along this corridor do fall within. And so it was quite a large scope and quite a number of different things that we reviewed in order to understand the corridor and its operating conditions and how it can be improved with an eye towards safety. So in order to better understand the corridor, some deep dives and analysis had to be done. Some of this analysis included intersection delay. So looking how long it took for someone to drive through, walk through, bike through an intersection. We looked at crashes along the corridor at intersections. So looking to see how those crashes happen using MassDOT's data, some other data from other sources. We also reviewed the intersection to see if they qualified maybe being upgraded to a signalized intersection for some intersections, which right now might be just stop signs. We also determined that 5 to about 9% of all traffic is heavy vehicle traffic, so we're talking like big trucks. And then we reviewed future development to see how it might potentially impact the whole of the corridor. So part of the whole corridor study was to do stakeholder engagement, going out to the public, going out to businesses, going out to other organizations that either have some kind of vested interest in Main Street because either they do business on it or they live on it, they walk across it, or just have a desire to know more and to be participants because they live within the city of Brockton or pass through it. So some of those initiatives were, one, there was an online public survey where people went online, took a survey to so we could understand what they seen as priorities for improving Main Street. We engaged a multitude of stakeholders, for example, like the Brockton Area Transit Authority, to understand how potential improvements might affect bus service along the corridor. Also met with Ward 5 and Ward 2 to understand the people that live in close proximity to Main Street or on Main Street and understand what their concerns and ideas of improving the corridor would be. And also met with the mayor's office and City of Brockton Planning Department to understand what the city thought needed to happen in order to improve Main Street. Along with that, we did some more direct stakeholder engagement. So we actually went to businesses along Main Street and spoke with them and see what their needs are and understand how they would like to see Main Street improved. Met with the DA's office since they have such a large office on Main Street. Met with the parking authority because there are changes that might happen along the corridor at some point that might need to be have parking reshuffled around or changed up. And then also went out and participated in other organizations' meetings to get the word out that we were doing this study, and also touched base on social media and our OCPC website to get the information out there to the public about the study. So these are some of the current Brockton initiatives that are taking place right now that are potentially affecting the corridor. For example, there was a downtown planning revitalization, which included a downtown parking structure, a downtown Brockton action strategy. There was also a citywide master plan, that has a downtown focus, which includes Main Street. The city has completed a complete streets prioritization plan to see how it can improve biking, walking, and transit and those who drive, and making it safer and more inviting for all mode users. And then there's the current downtown two-way conversion study that's taking place that's looking at what would be the advantages and possible outcomes if downtown Brockton was returned to a two-way street. Those who have a long history in the city remember when it was two-way before it went to one-way. And so there's been a long desire to potentially reverse that and take it back to two-way. There's also been a CSX master plan, so looking at the old CSX railway yard and how that changes to that might affect Main Street, and also the Campello visioning report that took place in 2018, which would have a direct effect as it would change land uses and potential other uses along the Main Street in Campello neighborhood. So now we're going to get into the recommendations that have been proposed for key intersections along the corridor. So starting with Hayward Avenue and Main Street, the overarching recommendation is to install a traffic light. For anyone that's ever driven down there, you know, trying to get from Hayward Avenue onto Main Street, especially during peak periods, can be pretty daunting. You know, you just got to wait for the queues to break, and sometimes it's a little long. So a traffic light would do wonders to help improve this intersection. We have done the analysis that shows it meets the threshold for a traffic signal installation, and those thresholds come from the Uniform Traffic Control Device manual. The next intersection would be Main Street at Perkins and South Avenue. And the recommendation there is to upgrade the traffic signal and its timing, and also to transition the pedestrian yellow-red walk signal right now that's currently, which is an outdated form of initiating the pedestrian walking phase, to the more traditional one that everyone's used to, of the walk symbol or the stop hand symbol to not proceed. This is also a high crash location, so upgrading this area with better signal timing and phasing would help alleviate and reduce crashes in this area. The next intersection we're proposing recommendations for is Main Street at Nielsen Street and East Nielsen Street. Here again, it's also the installation of a traffic signal. Anyone that's ever driven that intersection knows it can be quite challenging to get across Main Street right there, because there's just such a heavy traffic flow. It also has a high crash rate. It's in that top 200 crash listing that we mentioned earlier that MassDOT produces. And it meets the threshold for peak period traffic. So peak period traffic would be during the times of people going to work or coming home from work. And so it would definitely warrant a signal. And based on the analysis, installing a traffic signal would greatly improve traffic flow in that area. The next intersection we're proposing recommendations for is at Main Street and Forest Avenue / Martin Place. This is an intersection I know quite well because I used to live just off Forest Avenue. And to try to get from Forest Avenue onto Main Street going north was, wow, it took a long time sometimes for me to get on there. And so, you know, what tends to happen is that individuals have to do what I call a Massachusetts left turn, where you got to block the southbound traffic in order to try to scoot across it so you can go northbound, which creates its own host of problems and stuff like that. So installing a traffic signal would greatly reduce the need to do that, improve traffic flow, reduce the crash rate, and improve the peak period traffic flow in that area. So here we are with Main Street in downtown Brockton. So Main Street's kind of a unique animal in regards to this recommendation because there's two different concurrent studies going on. Our recommendation would be to improve signal coordination. So what signal coordination is that when one light turns green or turns red, they turn all the corresponding color in a uniform fashion. And to better improve that either with technology or timing, of course, that requires people to go to the speed limits in order for that to work properly. And then also, really the recommendations that are going to come forth would be through the downtown two-way. So right now they're discussing the possibility of making it two-way, so those could greatly affect the operation of the intersections downtown. So we'll have to wait to see the outcome of that and where we'll go. And more information on the downtown two-way study can be found at the City of Brockton's Planning Department. So another recommendation here is to improve signal timing at Main Street and Oak Street / Howard Street. This is a very high crash location as well, making its way to the top 200. Some of the recommendations we propose is improving signal timing and phasing. Also having a longer all red cycle. So that means there's red lights in all four legs of the intersection that lasts longer. And that's in order to reduce the potential of accidents that might be caused by somebody mistakenly blowing through the red light at this intersection. Also, the recommendation is on east-westbound, so along Oak Street / Howard Street, to institute a left turn arrow. So having that guide traffic a little bit better to improve left turning on the corridor there, and to protect those left turners as well, to let them know when they can turn left and when they should maybe exercise caution when doing so. So here's a list of just some overarching corridor-wide improvements. So big, macro improvements. One is to evaluate lighting for vehicles, pedestrians, and bicycles. In some sections of Main Street can be a little on the darker side just because of the nature of the lights that are there currently. There's been recommendations to improve and upgrade the current signage along there. As time goes on, signs fade a little bit, so maybe they might need to be upgraded so they're a little bit brighter for everyone to see. continue the city's constant restriping of Main Street. They have a restriping program that they're constantly going out there and restriping city streets. Look at upgrading signal timing and phasing and coordination where possible. And also making sure when we're upgrading signal timing and phasing that we also include bus priority signals. So that way buses get longer green time so they can make it through intersections, not have as great a delay, improving the riding experience for those who take public transportation. And also continue to implement enhanced traffic enforcement. In regards to bicycle improvement, we recommend a greater focus on the inclusion of bike lanes or cycle tracks, which are bicycle lanes that are separated from the roadway. Also, the addition of more bicycle parking, and where the roadway is just too constrained, look at the possibility of bicycle sharrows. So now that concludes the recommendations portion and the more meat and potatoes of the presentation. So I'm going to open it up for questions and answers.
Paul, there's a couple questions that have come in through the question and answer portal. This is from Amar Reed. The first question is, why won't Brockton opt in to the Mass General Law, Chapter 90, Section 17C?
I can address that, Mary.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I think that's a great question. And if we look back in time, almost 6 years ago, a gentleman named Carl Yancey was murdered on Belmont Street, September 29th, 6 years ago, almost to this month. It's an unsolved murder. It was a hit and run on Belmont Street. And at that time, as a city councilor at large, I filed a resolve and I had the state come before us. Of course, Belmont Street's Route 123. And I wanted to lower the speed limits as a mandate. And at that time, the answer was, well, we can't do that. It's going to be cost prohibitive. And I remember standing up that night in the council chambers saying, you don't put a price tag on health and safety. So I want to thank Mr. Reed for bringing this forward. I'm the mayor now, not a city councilor, but Section 17C of Mass General Law, again, is the establishment of 25 miles per hour of speed limit, in which is in a thickly settled or in a business district. So I think it's definitely a great question. I think we need to vet it out. I'll work with my legal department. I'll bring it forward. And I don't know. I know Captain Hallisey from Traffic Commission is on as well, and I'd love to hear his thoughts. But I don't think we have been afraid to adopt things in the past. And again, it's something that we should definitely consider this. And this is what I talked about at the beginning. It's all ideas and criticisms and suggestions. So great suggestion, and let's take it and kind of vet it out further.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Amar had an additional question. We have looked into policies. Have we looked into policies for Vision Zero based out of Boston to help motorists, pedestrian, and bicyclists? First, maybe Ray, do you want to first talk about, just give a general overview, a quick overview about the Vision Zero?
Sure. Vision Zero is a commitment to zero motor vehicle deaths. And the priority of transportation policies goes from speed to safety. And there's basically you use the 5 E's of safety: engineering, enforcement, education, 4 E's, emergency response, to try to get the deaths down to zero. The Boston has adopted, City of Boston has developed an action plan. So when a municipality wants to do this, they develop an action plan to achieve the goals. And you know, like I said, it comes out of the 4 E's of safety. It's something that the city, if they decide to do, you know, it's a great idea. It's a good public education program to get people to be more aware, pedestrians as well as motorists, and everyone else that uses the road, to get deaths down to zero. And it's people, you know, it's a really a very difficult thing to do, but you know, people have been trying to do it, and and it does work. It at least starts to get the deaths down on a downward trend. So that's kind of in a nutshell. I hope I got out. I described it the way it is, but it's something that, you know, it's something that the city could decide to do. They wanted to do it.
So I think from what we're hearing, so this is from a questions, and I think the process, as Paul described, the questions that are being generated, the discussions either through the chat or through the questions, these will be accumulated and then be put forward to the city, whether it's to the traffic, the police, the fire, the mayor, the city councilors, and have it be vetted. I think the next question is, could pilot a bus-only lanes like other cities? And I know Boston just created a bus lane. I think it was on, I don't want to say Huntington Ave, but somewhere nearby, Columbus Ave, I think it is, where it's bus only. You know, again, it's a question by Orlando, and just a question that's being posed. So again, this is just something at this point that, you know, we can put forward and have these recommendations, these suggestions that are being provided. Amar had a previous question in terms of who's paying for the audits, and I did answer that in the question and answer. I just want, just so everybody, if you haven't had a chance to see the response, but the city did not pay for these audits. And the fact that I think earlier on this study and the audits that are being performed, you know, they were either MPO, UPWP, MassDOT, Walk Boston, or Mass Bike. They did participate in the audit. So it's been a very well thought out, well vetted. During COVID-19, we're not meeting to be as inclusive as possible and available. And you know, I appreciate the question. So if I could, the next question, Amar had come up. I know this is focused on Main Street, which it is, but what are we doing to get the death toll down for the hit and run accident, et cetera? A ton of lives have been taken from reckless drivers. And this question is for you, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of go back to talking about the murder of Mr. Yancey again. I mean, any hit and run, loss of life, or just grave injury is unacceptable in the city of Brockton. And I'm the mayor now, and we need to take every precaution we can. And, you know, we have a wonderful traffic commission. 2 city councilors sit on the traffic commission, and we need to utilize every tool in the toolbox to prevent accidents and harm to pedestrians here in the city of Brockton and people that want to exercise and use the bike lanes. So, you know, I appreciate Amar. I know Amar's spoken in my office. Mr. John Messier in my office, Constituent Services Director, and, you know, I welcome his suggestions. And again, I think it's extremely important because right now it's all encompassing. We have the ability to really dot the I's and cross the T's, and I mean that. I mean, if we don't get this right, it's a waste of time. So we will work with the police chief, with the traffic commission, Rob May, my city planner, economic developers on the call as well tonight, and working with Mary and her wonderful professional services and staff. So Amar, thank you. I don't have a quick answer for you now, and I don't think I should have a quick answer for you now. I think we need to spend the time and really vet it out.
You know, Mr. Mayor, if I could just to further on that, you know, Brockton did receive step-up enforcement grant through EOPS, and again through these trying times. I know that at every meeting that you attended, our MPO or the JTC meeting, in looking at where the data is for the crash sites and for pedestrian and bicyclists. So we will continue to gather that data as it becomes available and share, and certainly in sharing it with the police and fire departments, as well as the councilors and you, Mr. Mayor.
I just wanted to say real quick that we have worked in the past with the, before the mayor was, Mayor Sullivan was mayor, but we we got money from the state. It was a collaboration between the state DOT and the Traffic Commission and the Regional Planning Agency. We put rapid rectangular flashing beacons on Main Street and up, not in the downtown, but north of Main Street. We got one on Montello. And we also have one slated for, although this is under a different funding program, it's with the Complete Streets, one on Main Street south of Plain Street, where the high rise is. So we are definitely looking at pedestrian. We've been monitoring pedestrian crashes, and when the money's available, we've been out there with a collaboration and have been putting these up. The one on Montello Street is near the Montello station, because a lot of people cross Montello Street to go to the to get on the train to Boston. So we have been working in the past as a collaboration with the state DOT and the city and the Regional Planning Agency. We're continuing to do that. We're getting money from other programs to continue that for pedestrian safety.
Thanks, Ray. Orlando had another, just a comment and question. Trees, are we adding them is the question. Would impact heat islands also and to slow traffic? Can we narrow streets to slow traffic? So there's a number of questions there, and I think that the idea obviously is to slow traffic. And so I think that these recommendations and questions we'll be capturing them as they were asked today, and we'll continue to send them to the city.
Where was the one on the trees?
That's in the chat, Ray.
Oh, okay.
So just a couple others. There are, Amar, I would love to volunteer my time as a resident to help and show what I've been seeing the last 28 days since I started my protest. Does this plan fall into Rob May's downtown plan? He mentioned Legion Parkway to become light bike lanes. So I believe that Rob May might be on another meeting. I wasn't sure whether he's still on or not. He showed there. I don't know if he's able to join in this question, but I think that those will be the questions I think to be forwarded to Rob May. I don't know if there's any other questions. I'm just double checking the chat room. I'm just checking. Oh, is a documented proposal available for the public to review? If you're talking about this PowerPoint presentation, it will be made available on the Old Colony Planning Council site. Is that right, Paul? Is that our process?
That is correct. It'll be available on our site. We'll be sending a copy to the mayor's office, and it will also be published on the Old Colony Planning Council's YouTube page. Great. And we'll be publishing it to our social media accounts as well.
Great. It will be available for 2 weeks in terms of, we'll have to have it be posted because we have to have the recommendations by the end of September. But once you are able to access through the website, you'll be able to download it. I just want to get there's a couple other questions. Vivian Ortiz is asking, good evening, everyone. I am the coordinator for the Mass Safe Routes to School program. Thank you, Vivian, for joining us. I am really excited to hear so many individuals commenting on improving walking and biking in Brockton. I too, as a walker in the city, I have started working with officials in the Brockton school system to encourage more students to walk and bike to school. If you're interested in helping out, please contact me. It's vivian.ortiz@aecom.com. We will also be in touch if for some reason you don't get this. For those that are listening in, please contact our office as well. We work with the Mass Safe Routes to School program. Jamal is asking, is the proposal the PowerPoint slide? Is there an actual report? And Ray, right, and Paul, there is going to be an actual report we put together?
Yes. Yes, we
Yes.
have a draft.
Right. So we'll get that. That will be the PowerPoint. This recording will be on our website and be shared along with the full report.
Yeah, Ray really did some really in-depth analysis and I mean, what you're seeing here is just, we would just bury you with text if we put everything on here that we did. So please have a good look at it and review it and give us your feedback.
Great. And, along with what Vivian had said, this is great. I think I said to the mayor, I wasn't sure how many people were going to be joining us. I think I guessed at 10 to 14 or something along those lines. This is great to have. We had up to 28 at one point, which is great. So it is, Mr. Mayor, and I know you've never shied away from having dialogue, whether it's uncomfortable or not. You've always been there to listen and to hear and to make sure that people are getting to be in contact. Just a couple others. Amara says thank you and helping with this, and to Vivian and to Jimmy. And Jamal, I look forward to seeing the report. Would love to know more. Can you advise if a document exists that tracks and monitors the development of downtown Brockton in relation to the Brockton Urban Renewal Plan? Very good question. The revitalization plan published in 2016 would be helpful to understand a percentage of completion each year. So that would be something that Rob May and getting an update. It is 2020 and that was 2016. So perhaps seeing what may have been accomplished. There's a lot that does. Just having worked in City Hall, there's so much that gets reported, so many things that get done that almost there's not enough time to update everybody just because it's everybody's on a shoestring. But that's a really good question, Jamal, in terms of looking for percentages. And again, Old Colony Planning Council, where we can, we will assist in providing. I think once Ray, you're finished with the report and get it posted, I think people will have a chance to really review that. And as you and as Paul presented in the presentation, we are taking all of those documents into consideration that have been previously done.
Okay.
There's another question about one of the intersections of Main Street at Legion Street. We did a road safety audit, and that's right in the center of downtown. The health center has been hit 9 times. I'm very familiar with that because we did a road safety audit out there. I think there were some sort of low cost sort of things that we could fixes that we could do in the interim before there's a major changes to that intersection. We have the road safety audit online at Old Colony Planning Council. We have a whole list of reports. So Mr. Mike Jacques could look there, or if he wants to email me his email, I can email him a copy of it. Because I don't remember what exactly the short-term fixes were. I think they were going to put some bollards there, but long-term they're looking at extending the sidewalks, and obviously it's going to be 2 ways right there to try to ameliorate the crashes there. So people have been distracted. Driving has been on the increase, and we think that's part of the problem. People are distracted. The other thing is the overhead signals. People might get tunnel vision there, but I'm very familiar with that intersection. We spent a lot of time with a road safety audit there, and Mr. Jacques is welcome to look at what we put in there for improvements. So some short-term improvements and some long-term improvements. So I hope that will answer his questions.
It's a good question, and I think you have answered it to this point. There was a question prior to that. Orlando had said, how can the public help with this? And I think by you participating in this virtual meeting, number one, attending traffic, look at all the meetings are posted online. They're open to the public. I think virtually or by Zoom or what have you. That stay engaged. I mean, being present and raising issues to your ward counselor, to the mayor's office. Those are just the ways the public can help with this, and being the eyes and ears for I think your community. And then the Amar had asked, do you have the Mass dot crash report for Main Street? I believe all of that is online. Am I right, Ray?
Yes.
And,
We have some crashes. Mass DOT has a crash portal, which is really great. Bill McNulty, who's not here, he's sort of the resident expert on that, but I've used it also. So that means that if I can use it, anybody can use it. But if they can Google MassDOT, MassDOT crashes, they could probably get on the portal.
So if I'm trying to think if any of the OCPC staff is online, if you can just search it and just put it into the chat room, the link, that would be the easiest right now. And
Yeah.
otherwise, follow up with our office. It is, and I've had a couple demonstrations with it and at the MPO meetings, and it's pretty incredible. Oh, there you go, Ben. Thank you, Ben Muller from Mass DOT. So Ben put the portal in there, and I highly recommend to everyone that's on this webinar, this meeting, that you do take a look at it. You can find all the information there. We have our friends at Mass DOT. That's always a great resource.
All right, and for the sake of time and get everyone back to their day, we're going to move on from the question and answer sessions. Obviously, this is not the end of question and answers. You'll be able to find the project manager's email at the end of this presentation, so you can email us additional questions and answers that you might not have thought of, but come to you on a different day, and we'll get back to you very quickly with that answer. So I'm going to move us on to, so what are the next steps after after this presentation? So as Ray had said, we're going to be compiling well, actually we have a draft report now. So we'll be producing the draft report and sending out to the stakeholders for public comment and review. Once we get all that feedback in, those recommendations and suggestions will be incorporated into the document and documented, and then that will finalize the document. And then after that, the city can use this document as guidance in order to help craft plans and craft recommendations to help improve the experience on Main Street for all modes of transportation. So the city will be able to go and use this document to get local and federal funding, also as a supporting document in other reports that might be looking to achieve other objectives. So they can use the data and resources from that. The state can also, the city could also look at the MassDOT initiatives, like on the three-step process of using the project intake tool to initiate any new projects that they might be interested in doing as a result of the recommendations put out here. And then kind of move the recommendations along, and then have the state come in and seeing whether or not a project can be approved. So with that said, we're going to wrap it up. If you have any further comments or questions, please email the project manager, Ray Garino. You can find all his information there. We respond to people's emails fairly quickly, and we also take voicemails as well. So with that said, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Paul. And thank you all for all the participation. This was a great night. Kudos to OCPC. Thank you.